So here I was, getting ready to make some pumpkin puree, and I got to thinking, you know, I might as well record it. I'm going to be going through the whole process of making the puree and then dehydrating in the dehydrator. So as you can see, I've already kind of got it started. I've got my seeds up there. I've got my pumpkins already ready. The oven's already heated up. And so now I'm going to go ahead and throw it in the oven. The oven's set at 350 degrees. And I'm going to leave it in there for about 45 minutes. So I'll check it in 45 minutes to see how it looks. And if it's nice and soft, then it'll come out and cool down. So as you saw, I have my pumpkins up. I'm hoping that juices will kind of flow into the cup there and kind of stay in there. And that way when I go to mix it all up, and it'll kind of add flavor to the puree. I'm going to go ahead and save the seeds. I'll probably roast some of them, but I think I'm going to save some for try to grow next year. Up here in Alaska, they don't have a lot of pumpkins growing outside. They don't have pumpkin patches you can go to. So these pumpkins were kind of expensive. So I want to get the most out of them. Okay, so I'm going to set the timer and go downstairs and help the kids with school. And I'll be back up later. Alright, there it is out of the oven. I'm going to let it cool down quite a bit. And then I'll be going and mixing it all up. And then putting it on the trays in the dehydrator. So, I mean, basically what it is, it just feels nice and soft. I'm even touching it nice. It's kind of... So, yeah, it's good. Nice and good. I like how it just pulls away from the skin. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and wait now. Alright, it's finally cooled down. And I went ahead and just pretty much peeled the stuff out, or it's kind of like you peel the banana, but I mean, I did go ahead and take the spoon and scrape it out because there's just a thin thin layer, and I wanted to get all my stuff out of there, so I went ahead and peeled that out. I did go ahead and pulled out some to dry for growing next year. And I've got these here. I'm going to go ahead and roast. I have them in some salt right now. I'm going to soak them overnight, then I'll roast them tomorrow. I'm just going to take my regular old blender, hand blender there, and mix it up. You could use something like that there to mix it up, but to me, I'm just going to go ahead and use the hand blender. And I'll probably be adding some water to kind of get it so it's kind of soupy. And then I'll be spreading it on the trays. Okay, so yeah, it's a pretty good consistency there. Kind of what I'm looking for. So what I'm going to do now is I spread it out on my tray here. And in the past when I've done this, I've made it real thin, and it's really hard to get off. When we do our mashed potatoes, it works out pretty good. But what we started doing is I started doing the hash marks, just putting lines in there. That kind of helps it break up a little bit easier, and it doesn't curl up as much. They break up before they curl. So I'm just going to go ahead and try a thicker layer this time to see if it is easier to get off, like the potatoes are. So I'm going to go ahead and fill up the dehydrator, and I'll bring you back. So I have all the pumpkin puree inside the dehydrator here. Later on, before I go to bed tonight, I'll check on it to see how it's doing. And in the morning, depending on how well it's done, I'll decide then if I want to pull it out and grind it up, or if I want to leave it in there a little longer. Alright, so I guess I should mention also that I have the temperature at 125 Fahrenheit, and that is, hold on, 52 Celsius. Also, I know I said 45 minutes in the oven when I was cooking that. I actually ended up cooking it for an hour and a half to get to the consistency that I liked. Alright, so it's the next morning and I'm going to take a peek in here. It looked pretty good last night. It looked like it was going to be doing pretty good. Now you can see I made it like thick, but now it looks pretty darn thin. And it's usually kind of pliable. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the dehydrator off and let the stuff cool down, and then it'll get crispy. I'll be able to peel it off. I'm hoping since it's thicker that it'll peel off a lot easier. Because right now it's, like I said, it's really pliable. Doesn't want to come off very well. So let it cool down and see what's going on. Well, I've had it cooling for a little while, and it looks like it's going to peel off real nice. Not real hard. So I'm getting ready to go to the next stage, and getting ready to put it all into a pan, then grind it up and put it into a jar. So I wanted to show you how easy this comes off now that I have little blocks like that. Just kind of comes right off. Now that I let it cool down and everything. I'm glad I made it thicker, because this is usually a lot harder to get off. So, thick is the trick.
It lines too.
Yeah, this is looks like a little thinner.
It is. It does look like that anyways.
Yeah, it's not coming off as easy.
Except for that one. Good. Smells good.
Smell good?
Yeah.
You want to try some of it?
Yeah.
Do you know what it is?
No.
It's raw pumpkin.
Really?
Really. Mooses like it. Alright, so the way I grind it up, is I put it in a magic bullet and just grind it that way. Already got some done. It's looking pretty good. Jar's pretty hot. I just got it out of the oven. So I just stick it in. I may have to move the bullet around a little bit to assist it, but does a pretty good job. So there we go. 1 pint of powdered pumpkin puree. I have nothing in there to keep it from clumping up. That's okay with me because it breaks down pretty quick. It's not really clumpy. It's just, But there we go, complete. Those 2 pumpkins dehydrated down to that. Now, Now to story time, I guess. This is also pumpkin puree, dehydrated pumpkin. And the story behind this one is, well, my wife had bought a pumpkin this year. We had, dehydrated and everything. We had it stored in here for a bit because I hadn't gone downstairs and got an empty jar. And I was digging through the deep freeze and I found 2 1-gallon bags of more pumpkin puree that we had from some pumpkins that we grew like, I don't know, I think like 4 years ago. So it was in the deep freeze. And so I pulled them out and said, it's going to be easier to store that in a jar dehydrated. So I thawed it out, did the whole process you saw me do with dehydrating the pumpkin, and ground it up, and I still had it in this jar, this container. And so I went downstairs, grabbed a canning jar, grabbed this jar, and I washed it out and put it in the oven to help speed the drying and to disinfect it. And I pulled it out of the oven and poured all the contents from here into here. And when I did that and I spun it, I noticed there was a wet spot. I noticed there was a wet spot down at the bottom. So I poured it all back into here, re-washed the jar, re-dried it, made sure it was dry this time. And everything was fine at that point, but I was thinking, there might be some wet, dehydrated pumpkin inside the container. So I put it all in the glass jar, put it in the oven at 220 degrees. I said, water boils at 212, so I figured, heck, just boil it right out of there. Went downstairs to help the kids with school, and I forgot about it. I come up like 3 hours later, and it smelled like brownies up here. And I instantly remembered that I had left this in the oven. So it's a good lesson learned. So I haven't thrown it away yet, since it's a lesson reminder. But this stuff looks pretty darn good, and I'm excited to give it a shot. Thanksgiving is a couple of weeks away, and plan on using some of it then. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please click the thumbs up button. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching.